You passed out from SRCC.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you went to JNU.
Yes.
To do MA.
Yes.
Why did you shift from the commerce to economics?
I have done BA honors in economics from
economics SRCC. So you just continue with
Yes.
that. Okay, very good. Any difference between JNU and Delhi University?
Yes, ma'am. There are a lot of differences as well as similarities.
Yes.
Differences. I think most importantly because JNU is an enclosed campus, whereas DU is an open campus. So JNU had that kind of environment where it was completely only JNU fraternity, whereas DU for its vast and open campus. So the culture of study, the culture of engagement, that was very different. Secondly, I think what I personally felt was the socioeconomic background of students as well. You could see a marked difference between DU and JNU. So that was a really
in what terms?
Basically, in JNU's entrance exam, till I was there, at least we had a system called deprivation point, where 5% was given based on your if you had studied from a particular backward region. So because of that opportunity, as well as a deprivation point for women's candidates. So because of that opportunity, we had a lot of students, scholars from all across India. Whereas in DU, it was a very competitive environment. The cutoffs, like we've seen across the news channels, go up anywhere about 95, 98. So it is mostly students from, I would say, green institutes that come into DU, whereas JNU was a more holistic, more open socio-economic background of students.
Is it a good idea to give deprivation percentage?
Yes, ma'am. I think for a country like India, where we have so much differences in socio-economic backgrounds, that was a welcome step in JNU. And I think to ensure that we have a more inclusive educational institution like JNU, deprivation points have helped in that.
You seem to be quite in favor of JNU, but the newspapers talk differently.
From this aspect, yes, ma'am. The deprivation point aspect, yes, ma'am. I was
because I'm also from JNU. I also studied in Delhi University, Miranda House, and then shifted to JNU. So that's why I just wanted to know how do you see the difference between the two institutions. Very good. Now, after that, you chose to do sociology as your optional. Why?
I've given I've given civil services in economics 5 times, and all the 5 years I had seen there was a plateau of my marks. And irrespective of the effort I was putting in, frankly, I did not see a marked difference. So I thought in my last attempt I had to do something different, because if I do the same, I'm probably going to get the same result. So as a different plan, so as to say a strategy, I took sociology as an option.
Did it help?
And so far it has helped.
And you got better marks than what you were getting because of economics?
This is the first time
the first time.
So I still don't know my marks in sociology.
Okay. So while studying sociology, which topic did you like the best?
Across sociology.
Yeah, across sociology.
And I think because I could resonate a lot with it, the aspect of tribal communities in India.
Tribal communities. So if you have to talk to someone about the status of Indian tribes, how would you describe that?
Firstly, I would say that Indian tribes are very diverse. Though we see tribal communities as a one giant block, but if you look into it, it's very diverse, right from the north to the northeast, south, central Indian, all the western Indian tribes. So we cannot basically summarize tribal communities as one single community. But if we look at the basic gist, a certain, so as to say, similarities across the tribes, I think one thing that stands out vis-a-vis the rest of the Indian society is a high degree of gender equality. Secondly, I would say a high degree of tolerance to inclusivity. The very fact that the tribal communities across the country have accepted various religions and various cultures.
No, I mean the other way of putting it would be that if you look at one thing which you said was absolutely correct, that they are not homogeneous across India because that is spread out. But then another part is that they are in 3 stages of development. One who have completely got assimilated because of the reservation policy, right? For a long time we have been having this reservation, so therefore they have got assimilated. The other ones were completely rejected because a lot of tribes were still very in the primitive areas. They stick to their own, tribal features. And the other would be in transition. That is partly. That is, they do try to maintain their culture at the same time are also part of the wider society. So this is how one would explain the status of the tribes because they are spread across the country. So that's it. You said you follow Buddhism as a religion, right?
Yes.
So what is the status of Buddhist in India today?
At present,
The percentage in terms of yeah.
Buddhism as a religion, especially post medieval and the late ancient period, has declined, and today roughly around 1 to 1.5% profess or practice Buddhism. And even within Buddhism in India, we have a lot of different schools, whereas we have the Hinyan Buddhism in central and the eastern part of the country, whereas in the northern and the Himalayan region, we have the Vajrayana, and then strongly influenced by Tibetan Buddhism and the world culture.
Buddhism, India is supposed to be the land birthplace of Buddhism, but unfortunately now it's not practiced as widely as it used to be. Why?
I think I would see to it from a historical perspective, if I may, ma'am. Firstly, from the 8th to 9th century, we can see that there was a lot of assimilation of Buddhism into the Hindu fold. Preachers had showcased Lord Buddha as an incarnate of Lord Vishnu. So that was one strong reason that Buddhism today has been seen as part of larger Hindu fold. Secondly, there have also been studies that show that the early Buddhist priests did not necessarily translate into the practice of the later Buddhist phase. We had a lot of, so as to say, the Buddhist priests falling into the Sanskrit fold. They did not practice the strict Sangha code, and they started getting more into exclusion from the society, getting into a little luxuries of life. So, in a way, it's said that it became the very religion that it criticized.
Very good. Now, going back to your optional subject, among the thinkers whom you studied, which thinker influenced or rather which thinker was your favorite thinker?
Ma'am, from the Western as well as the Indian.
Anyone, yeah, from Western India.
Ma'am, I could really, if not influenced, but M.N. Srinivasan.
M.N. Srinivasan. What?
I think the whole concept of the beauty of the concept of Sanskritization and the dominant caste.
Okay, the Sanskritization of the caste. Okay, very good. Now, my last question. What is the difference between NPS and old pension scheme and the new pension scheme?
Now, the old pension scheme up to the entrance of 2004 and the new pension scheme, I would say there are basically three differences. One is in the old pension scheme, you get a fixed pension after superannuation, whereas in the new pension scheme, the new pension system, you as well as the employer contribute monthly, and that gets into the pension fund, and that as annuities is paid after you superannuate. Whereas in the old pension scheme, you have a gratuity. In the new pension scheme, there is no fixed gratuity.
So, which is better?
And from a individual perspective or the larger society. So, from the larger society, I think given this burden on the state exchequer and fiscal consolidation, the new pension scheme, after a lot of scrutiny, has been stated to have a long-term fiscal sustainability, because pension, as we know, has nearly around 8% of the state budget, and which the old pension scheme in that regard was not sustainable. But at an individual level, people have criticized the new pension scheme because of the benefits that the old pension scheme, which was withdrawn in the new pension.
But we hear these days that a lot of states are going back to the old pension. Do you think this would happen in the near future, that almost all states would then go back to the old pension scheme?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am. The new pension scheme, vis-a-vis the old pension scheme, has become a political issue especially in the opposition rule states and the states going into election. The OPS has become appeared in the political manifesto. So
So
I
you
think
think the state would go back? Almost all the states would go back to the
but that is,
pension.
for me, I don't think that is fiscally possible for the states, because if we even look at the data, we have states like Punjab, Bengal, even prosperous states like Tamil Nadu having a lot of, so as to say, public debt. So that fiscal burden, and we may see new pension scheme, old pension scheme as more successful in the short run, but in the long run, I think once the states get down and check into their fiscal records, it becomes difficult to implement the old pension scheme in perpetuity.
Okay, sorry, one last question again. What did we learn from the game of football? You play football, right? So what did we learn from that?
I think we learn a lot of things. First important thing is the value of team spirit. Any team sport for that matter, no individual player can attain success without the support of the team. Secondly, I think it's a game of patience. Just for that 90 minutes of play, you have to train days and days. And that gives us a very good message that it's not about that 90 minutes, it's about what you do before that 90 minutes that counts.
And also, I think that the best way to go forward in life is to coordinate with your partner or the next person.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.